Jessica, welcome on today's live stream. I'm very excited to host you today. We are going to talk about your one of the biggest events this year, which was a hybrid event, the Mix 22, the Mastering Immersive Experiences. I have a list of questions for you today, but while we're waiting for the audience to join, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Irina. Great to be here with you today. I'm really looking forward to talking about this event. I lived and breathed it for months, so it's nice to have it behind me, but just be able to, talk about it without being stressed about all the planning and everything that goes into it. So I'm Jessica Connolly. I am the director of events for Hubilo. I've been with Hubilo since August of last year, so almost coming up on my 1 year anniversary, which it just flew by. It's been a lot of fun and great. Prior to that, I've been in the corporate events industry for over 20 years, planning all sorts of corporate events for various companies around the globe. And that's been my focus prior to getting into this virtual event planning world.
Great. So I see we have audience already joining us. So let's deep dive straight into the discussion because I have many questions for you today, and I'm very curious to hear about the mix and how to design hybrid events. So let's start with you, Hubilo, as a supplier organizing hybrid events. And in fact, there is a term for this, splanner.
Mm-hmm.
Only recently, actually, I discovered this term on LinkedIn. Dalia El-Ghazar, she shared a post about it because it's a common now term for suppliers who organize events. And do you see yourself as a planner?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you share that article with me, I never even thought about that. But there's always been this, working for an event platform company and we're doing events and we're trying to show how to do events. There's always this little extra pressure sitting in the back of my mind that I'm planning these events for my peers. And along with that comes that judgment, that support, and all those things. So I do feel a little extra pressure there. But yes, I do. We are a little bit of a splanner over here at Hubilo, and not just because we do an event and it's not just here's how you have to do it, but we can really show you here's what we learned from it, here's the good from it, here's the bad from it, here's how we would do things differently. And that's a lot that we can share with our audience, as well as everyone in the event industry, is a lot of learnings. So without us telling you how to do it, we can really share insights on how we lived through it, what worked and what didn't. And then, another great thing about Hubilo is we've got this amazing client experience team, and they kind of are splanning their way with a lot of our clients. A lot of clients come in with no event experience, and our team is there to kind of help them. Okay, this is how other people are doing it. Maybe try this, and giving suggestions to our client base too that are always looking for it. So there is a little bit of planning going on through that onboarding and event process with a lot of our clients.
Definitely. And organizing events for event planners, I think it's an extra challenging job because event planners always know it better.
Exactly. Exactly. I've gone to company events that are planned by, HR, not to, diminish anything HR is doing because they're great, but they're not event planners. And, we can sit back and say, oh, we would have done this, or they didn't think about that. And I kind of now feel that little bit of, pressure and thought coming from my peers. And I do get a lot of comments after the events too. And all the great things too, but also, did you think about this, or would you consider that? Why did you do it this way? So, yeah, there's definitely that. Planning events for event planners is a challenge in itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to ask our audience watching us right now, are you a planner or a supplier? So we'll see what mix we have among our audience. So you've been planning many events this year, a lot of virtual. Last year, many of which I attended, and I loved how they evolved. So you had like a flagship events with keynote speakers like Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, and then you had more of an event series like the Submerge event. And then you hosted a hybrid event. The industry was speaking a lot about hybrid, wanting to learn about hybrid. And I do believe that hybrid is still here to stay, but its format will evolve. It might be more of a hybrid event strategy. But this question will come to later. But tell me now about the Mix 22. It was a hybrid event with 4 main hubs in 4 cities, with keynote speakers, with breakout rooms. Tell me everything about it.
Sure. The events, it's so crazy planning a hybrid event because it can go in so many directions. How we started planning the events in Q4 last year, we did want to have one large location where we brought a lot of people in and then have that virtual audience. And then as Omicron was just really throwing a wrench into things over, December through January, and before we committed to anything, we really thought like, wow, can we plan something in March we don't know where Omicron's going. Can we have a large gathering of 500, 1,000 people? We just were so unsure and it was very unsettling. So we thought, let's scratch that idea. Let's try to do some smaller in-person events and also keep the virtual. And we can keep those smaller events just to, an invite only list or just a regional client list. And then that way we can give everyone that comfort of, okay, there won't be a lot of people here. We can put more safety measures into place should we need to. It ended up benefiting that things started getting better with Omicron. And we, were able to bring in a little bit more people and we didn't have to have all of the same safety precautions. Masks were optional at this point, but we did set up our areas where, we had big comfortable chairs for everyone to sit in. So they felt they have that personal space and you weren't booked on, on top of each other, crammed into a room. So that's kind of where we went with the ideas. Let's have these smaller events and the virtual events. And we can do these smaller events around the globe. So we had 2 locations in the US, in New York and Silicon Valley. We had an outpost in London. We also had Bangalore. And we originally had Germany on our list, but I think we just weren't getting the reaction that we wanted to. And then, of course, there's that little discrepancy going over in, Eastern Europe. And we just, again, we're like, so many things are being thrown at us. Let's cancel that one and just keep, other locations that we know we feel a little bit more secure in. So that's how we planned that bit. Yeah.
I really appreciate that you looked at the situation, you assessed the situation and said, okay, we can cancel this. It's not that we have to do this because you still have a very strong virtual component. And if there's someone from Germany still wants to join, they can join virtually. And I think this is very important to keep this flexibility. Did you have the flexibility with the venue to cancel?
We did. At that state and time, we still had that flexibility. Probably a week later, we wouldn't have been able to have that, and that's something you always have to look at with planning now is you have to have that plan B. We may have to cancel this. We may have to downsize. We have to look at our contracts differently when we're doing them. But the great thing is, like you said, there's always that virtual component and it's no longer just a virtual, go watch the recorded on-demand session after the events. You really can be there. We wanted to make it live and not all on demand so that anyone could tune in and really just engage with the event and ask their questions and talk to other audience members and feel like they're part of the event and not just getting an after show.
Yeah. And you as the main planner, where were you based? And who supported you then in all the different locations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm based in Colorado, but I went to the location in Silicon Valley. That's where we had our main production crew there. And we had a live setup in the room and we also had another room where they were doing all the virtual components. They were kind of hidden in another ballroom that no one even knew they were there, managing the whole thing. So I oversaw all of that, but then I had to rely on team members to be in our other locations managing that. And for me personally, that was one of the biggest struggles. As you know, a lot of us event planners are, we're a little control freakish, and we need to, you know, be aware of everything, have our hands in everything. And, you know, to know that there's a location in New York and London and even India, and I have no control over what's happening there, was, you know, it was good for me to let the team take control and just know that they're going to run with it, and it all will be good. And it all worked out well in all the locations.
And who helped you with coordinating all the virtual engagement? What was there a moderator for the chats?
Yes. So internally, we've got, so I've got an event team of a couple people, and then my greater marketing team is such a great support. We always pull in some of our content writers to help with notifications and monitoring the chat. We've got, you know, some other teams in the marketing organization that will also come in and play and, you know, help with the Q&A and moderating everything we need, answering all types of questions.
Great. And we have a question from Tejasvi, who is a supplier, and is saying, Jessica has inspired many Hubilo team members like me. After working on some really big hybrid events, what are some of the most underrated aspects of event planning that you think are critical and need more time and attention from teams?
Oh, that's a great question, Tejasvi. Gosh, what are the most I think just there's so much underrated about the events team, because I think a lot of people, and this is based on my experience with a lot of big corporations, of, oh, just plan an event, throw it together. There's so much that goes into that, especially with these hybrid events. When, you know, we have a location and we need to cancel a location, there's a lot that goes into that, and a lot of, you know, notifications we have to get out just internally and externally. When we're doing multiple locations, you know, the person on my team that deserved the gold star there was the gal who's sending out all of our email promotions, because we're like, okay, we're doing virtual, and then we're doing 5 different locations, and they all need their own invite. They all need their own reminders. They all need their you know, follow-up messaging, because it's all tweaked a little different. And, you know, I think we didn't 100% prepare her for that was all coming. And, but, you know, she's a rock star. We have a rock star team here at Hubilo, so she rolled with it. It was great.
Yeah, that's a very great point, because one aspect that I hear quite often, people saying, oh my God, I forgot about this virtual event. Like, I forgot it was at 7. I forgot it was at 9. I'm so sorry. I really wanted to attend.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just this email that has to land in the inbox at 10 minutes until the event starts, that people actually don't forget, because they actually do want to attend. They have good intentions, but
Exactly.
things happen and just people forget. So definitely, it's just such a small act of extra reminder that can really change your attendance a lot.
It does, yeah. And I have things on my calendar too, and I sign up for a lot of events, good intentions, and a lot of webinars and talks that I want to listen to or participate in. And obviously I've got a job too, and that fills up my meeting calendar. So really, you know, balancing that, I think it's important to get those last minute reminders out to everyone so they don't forget. Even if you can jump in for 10 minutes here or there just to catch some of it, it's really good.
Exactly, yeah. And that's also true. Sometimes you can't attend the whole event, but if you're just like there for 10, 15 minutes, you get the vibe of the event. Maybe you get hooked by what the speaker says, and then you stay a bit extra, but you can already interact with the chat. And definitely, it's just like this interaction, because that's actually what brands want, this interaction and this connection with the audience.
Yeah.
And everyone connects differently, I believe. And for someone, it's good, this visual component, a bit of interaction, just saying hello, but for others, they would actually appreciate this learning, in-depth learning. So before we go to the next question, I would like to ask our audience, where are you based? Where are you joining us from today? Because I'm joining from Heidelberg in Germany, and Jessica, you are joining from?
I'm in Boulder, Colorado in the United States.
Great. So we have very international audience today. I can also see from our chat. So next question, let's talk about the ROI and the objectives. So a lot of time, big teams working on the event. What were your objectives when you decided to organize it, and have you achieved your ROI?
Yeah, so ROI I think is a little bit more time to come, as I think the life cycle of everyone who came is going to take a little bit of time, so it will take us a little bit of time to get there. But our objectives to put on an event to bring some brand awareness to Hubilo is we're still kind of
I think I lost Jessica for a second, but I hope the stream will be back soon. Yeah, so hi Silvana from Brazil, and Jasvi from India. Let's try to bring Jessica. Yeah, so those who are watching today, let me know, by the way, if you attended the Mix event, because it was an event that actually took place simultaneously, virtual and in person. What we are going to talk next about is that how the hybrid model is changing, because in the beginning of the pandemic, we talked about this hybrid model that the events need to take place simultaneously. But I think right now many planners have learned the lessons by trying to host two events simultaneously, the live and the virtual. And of course, it's very, very difficult because hi, Jessica.
Hi, I think I lost my Wi-Fi.
Yeah, no problem. I was just talking about the hybrid, how the hybrid model is changing. And I find it so fascinating that you really took the challenge of hosting the hybrid event, the virtual and live, taking place at the same time. So tell me about the ROI before we actually go into this challenging aspect of hosting these two events. So yeah, the ROI of
I think I had started but got cut off somewhere there. But with ROI, it's something that we're still working towards to make sure that we hit that goal and figure out that was the life cycle of bringing in a new prospect to the first time versus current clients, and keeping them on as clients will take some time to figure out. But our goals were to just put on a great event, showcase Hubilo and all the features that Hubilo has in a hybrid offering, and we definitely hit the mark there.
Yes, definitely. I think that's such a great way to get immersed in this experience, because you have the chance really to use all the features. We use the main stage, we go on the chat, and what I love with your events is that always the conversation is in the chat is always complementing what the speakers are saying. For example, the speaker would say something and then the audience say, yes, I agree with that, and da 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 da. So there's a lot of, I think there's a very, very high value watching this event live, because you can be one of those people then adding to the conversation to what the speakers say. And actually, it's great for networking, because I see what the other people are saying, and I can say, okay, I agree with what this person said. It was interesting. Maybe we connect on LinkedIn afterwards. So this is a very, very interesting component of virtual events, and I think that attendees can have a very big advantage of this component. Then we use the gamification suite. You have all this very fun competition with the chances to win some prizes.
Yeah.
To write funny captions on some photos, for example. It's one of my favorite competitions that you do.
Okay.
And really one of my very favorite is the networking lounge that you randomly matched with different people on the virtual sofa, and you can network, you can meet people. And here I think a very interesting aspect is the serendipity aspect, because we talk about serendipity at live events, but actually serendipity can be also created at virtual events. You go into the lounge, you are on this sofa, and then your face is there, and then someone comes and say, "Hey, Rina, I saw that you are there, so I just wanted to stop and say hello." And actually, this has happened to me at your event. So it's a great way to keep in touch with your network. And as you said, it's definitely very important for the clients, for the visibility, and knowing these features. It's such a huge advantage to take this opportunity and try the features.
I love the lounge feature. We recently did an event, and when the event closed, I had to go to another meeting. And then I came back to check on, or the event page was still open an hour later, and there were still people in the lounges talking. And I thought, this is so great, because we just created a space for people to come and talk and connect, and they're still going. And that's how it happens in real life, and that's how it should hopefully happen more and more in the future on, this digital stage.
Definitely. And now let's go to the most important question that I really want to talk with you on this live, is about how hybrid is changing. In the beginning of the pandemic, we talked about events need to be hybrid. People should be able to go attend an event live, and then they should have still the option to choose if they want to attend live or virtual. But now many events have taken place. Planners did try to organize it hybrid, but it's very difficult. It's really, really difficult. And now the industry is talking about having this hybrid component of having a year-long hybrid event strategies, that you might have a couple of events live and a couple of events virtually, and then the audience has the chance to interact with the brand, to get to know the participants. So how do you see this?
Yeah, so I think it definitely needs to be more of a year-long strategy, and that's how we're looking at it at Hubilo. Instead of events being one and done, it really is a 365-day model. And how we did it was great for that one day. We really wanted to bring a global audience together and be able to bring them together. And we were more just curious, can we do this? What does it look like? How challenging is it? And it's very challenging, like you said, because we have all these different locations. So essentially we were planning 6 events on one day, which is a lot, because each location was its own event and experience, including the virtual audience. So that's a lot to do in one day. But when you can look at it for, just year long, and, what's great about these platforms is we can bring people in and out. Once you come to the Mix event page on the Hubilo platform, it doesn't mean it's done. And what we're working on now is adding some more content there, adding some more contests that you like, and polls, and days where the lounges are open on Wednesday afternoon. So come in and chat with your friends and meet up with people, because the space is here. It's a little bit blending events and community together, so that, there is a place where we can come and connect. There is a place where we can get some additional content, more events, but also keeping that in person, because we all know how important that is. And maybe keeping those in-person events for us at a smaller scale, and not trying to do anything too big and too crazy, because there's still so many variables out there in the world today.
Yeah. I have a question from Silvana. If it's repeating the video, we had some delay in the video, so it might be a bit slower with the live stream. But
my Wi-Fi is back on? Can I switch over to my laptop because I'm holding my phone? Okay,
sure.
Give me 1 second, and maybe that will help that.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, please let us know, because we want to hear from you. We want to know what do you want to know about hybrid events, because Jessica can answer your questions. She has a lot of experience, and we want to learn from Jessica. We have a comment from Laura watching us. Also had this problem a few minutes ago. Refreshing the page and restarting the stream did the trick. Yeah, I think you can't go without it when you do virtual events and live streams. We got used to this. It's part of the game, but thank you everyone for your patience and understanding, because virtual events are not always smooth, but we are getting better at it. I think the technology will get so much better at it.
Sometimes it's just out of our hands. Like my Wi-Fi just went out for like 5 minutes. We have no control over that, but at least I know to okay, I can pick up my phone, because that can run without Wi-Fi, and join back in. And now I'm switched back here. But yeah, it's what I love about doing events for event planners is when you have these technical difficulties, the chat turns to support instead of criticism, where prior to working for Hubilo, I worked for another company. And I remember our very first virtual event, and it was in the early stages of virtual events. And my gosh, people were so critical of any little glitch or thing that happens. And I just remember reading the chat and almost tears coming down my face. I can't control this. Why are they commenting about this? Just enjoy the content and roll with it. People weren't ready for that yet. So we're a little bit more used to it now. I almost expect something to happen. A lot of times something does happen, and it's how it is, and nothing's perfect.
Yeah, you know what? Just at this point, I will actually be hosting an event, a virtual event on the 25th of May about failure stories from events, because we talk about success stories. You see many titles: virtual events, success stories, hybrid event success stories, incentive events success stories. But we learn more from failure, and just by understanding that might be a technical problem and people can be supportive in the chat, it's so much nice to raise this awareness, and also guide the audience maybe what to do if a technical problem happens, so we can learn so much when things go wrong. So yeah, this is on the 25th of May. I will then share the link afterwards. It will be fun. It will be also funny.
I'm tuning in for that. I like that. And I like just when you're having your own events and you have your host or the presenter at the time, and they're just open and honest about it. We don't have to pretend that we're dealing with technical difficulties the way we might do at a live event. We keep it all behind the curtain, and we don't want anyone to know what's going on back there. But I love just being like, hey, the sound just went out for a few minutes. Thanks for hanging in with us. We're working on it. Just, being upfront about it.
Yeah.
Stressing it.
Hi, Sam, and thank you for joining us today. And Sam is joining us from Chicago. I'm struggling with Wi-Fi here. Hope we can get the recording. Yes, the recording is already online on the Mice Blog YouTube channel. Conference MCs are working on some insights into hybrid successes and language change. Here in the US, there is phrase omnichannel, which is interesting. Yes, omnichannel, it's a great topic. Maybe we can cover it in the future lives. So let's go now to the next question. And if anyone from our audience has a question, please let us know. We want to hear from you. Let's talk about event engagement online. How do you measure this engagement? Is it just the number of people actually writing, or is it people writing on social media, tagging speakers, tagging the event, the hashtag? What's your approach?
We look at all of that. So within the platform, we do get some metrics on, how many chats are going on, who's chatting. We can look at the individual person and see how that person engaged. We can look at an individual session and say, okay, how many people answered the poll versus how many people were actually in the session, to see what percentage of people were actually paying attention. If I'm paying attention to a session and they say there's a poll question, I perk up and I want to answer the poll, even if I maybe drifted off a little bit, because as we know, it's hard to stay 100% focused when your email and Slack are dinging on the side when you're trying to sit into an event. But so that's how we measure it, and just see, with each event, how do we get a little bit more people to come to the lounges? How do we get more people to answer the polls, participate in the contests, things like that? So that's how we're measuring engagement.
I love this question. And actually, I want to go to the previous answer that you talked about the hybrid event. And you mentioned the word curiosity. And now you spoke about how do we do it? And I think this is so important, to be curious. How can we do things differently? How can we do things better? How we can engage people differently? And I came across this also, seeing your events, because each event is different, and you are always in a testing phase, that you are experimenting and you're doing a new event, and now you did hybrid, and again you're asking yourself how can we do it better and different. So it's such a great approach, and I think we as event professionals always need to ask how and be curious how to
absolutely
do it better.
Yeah, and I think there are so many different ways to engage and do things, and we don't know if it works yet, because we're all still in the baby stages of this virtual event engagements. So let's just keep trying things, and things that work we can do on repeat, and things that don't, we can put away and try something else.
Definitely. I loved also your insights about the polls. What is like the most engagement feature that you said, like, that's the best seller?
For me personally, or how it's worked for
your events, like your platform? What do you see where it's like always like you must have this feature?
I definitely like our chats and GIFs. Sometimes because we've got the GIF feature in there, sometimes there's not even chat going on. It's just, it looks like my Instagram page. Like, it's just a whole bunch of pictures and, little short, quick videos. And I love that. And it's a lot of fun. That gives a little bit more emotion as to what people are really thinking and feeling, other than just their words. We were talking earlier, and I said, it's just sometimes speaking like this, I'm missing people's faces and their reactions. So, with emojis and GIFs, you can see how the audience is reacting. So I think for a speaker or a presenter, that's important for them to be able to see the reactions coming in from people, and not just, it's hard to read what's going on over there, because you're talking or you're listening to the person interviewing you. And so you don't want to have to go read something, but just seeing some images and emojis is great.
Definitely. And this reminds me of your very, very first event that I attended. And it was with Drug Taste, and I think that the speaker said, share with an emoji, how do you feel today? And it was just so fun, and you see like people dancing and unicorns and champagne, and it just breaks the ice and adds this fun and humor component, and just everyone is in a good mood. So definitely bringing this fun aspect with emojis or GIFs.
Yes. And we should add a little fun to our days. It doesn't have to be all serious, and
definitely
let's have fun with it.
Definitely. So if anyone has questions, please let us know. We want to hear your questions about hybrid events. I'm very curious what type of questions you have about hybrid. But let's continue with ours. What is your one key learning that you will take to the next hybrid event?
Probably don't do 6 events in one day is probably the, yep, I think maybe Amanda's saying 100% don't do 6 events in one day. It was a lot. There were times where I'm like, I don't know if we can pull this off, but we did, and I'm happy about that. But I think it was a lot. And our team is small, but it's a great team and everyone pulled together. So, just sticking to your goals, whatever your goals are for the event. I just, recommend sticking to that and making sure that whatever you do, you're still achieving your goals.
Great. Question from Laura. What is your favorite part of organizing a hybrid event?
So I'm a little biased here. I love planning the in-person part. I love looking at, what is the stage design? What's the layout of the room? I really, really love that. So when we were first just planning virtual events, it was a new learning experience for me because I didn't have, past experience with that. But then, getting to do hybrid events, it kind of brought in my expertise along with what I've learned new now. So I had this level of, okay, I'm very comfortable over here because I know how to plan in-person events and how to make them amazing experiences for the audience. And I'm still learning how to do that virtually. So I love just having that little comfort zone of, I know exactly what I'm doing over here. And this part we're still figuring out. We're still learning.
Definitely nice. And Silvana asks, hybrid still expensive or prices are getting better with so many platforms out there?
So I think hybrid, I think the platform part of it, I don't find to be that expensive. We still use, for some of our events, a production company to support with our hybrid events. We don't always, because we've got an in-house studio similar to how we're doing here, and a lot of event planners are very comfortable doing this, but sometimes there's a little bit more and you want that production piece. The in-person part, I'm finding more expensive because of supply chain issues. There's not enough staff. They were out of business for a couple of years. Definitely noticed, that rental costs, room rental rates went up, food and beverage went up. So those costs are definitely still expensive for that in-person event.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I hear this argument already from several planners, and we'll see how it will develop then in the next years, and how the market will develop, because it's been so dynamic in the past year. So you mentioned already, don't do one event in 6 venues, locations. What other tips would you give to planners organizing hybrid events, or even hybrid event strategy that having this live and virtual component over the duration of?
Sure. I look at them, and I know event planners are kind of split on this, but I look at them as it's 2 different events. It's 2 different experiences you're creating. If you just look at live and in person and not the number of locations we're at, it's still 2 events with 2 different experiences. However, you do want to create that bridge to bring them together. You don't want them so separated. So there was a lot of thought and, lessons learned, things we realized after, oh, we should have done this to integrate the 2 audiences, or we could have done that, or we wanted to do something and just didn't have enough time in that planning. But you're really creating 2 experiences, but you do have to blend them together. So with, the lounges, it's hard to get someone in person to want to go talk to someone in a lounge with that virtual audience member. And we're trying to figure out, how do we really get them to engage, because they can watch the same session, they can answer the same polls, but really we're still trying to learn, how do we get them to talk to each other, or ask ourselves, do they want to talk to each other, or do they still just want to stay separate with their audience? I don't think we figured that one out yet.
True. I can tell you what I want. What I like to do is actually, I like to share insights from the event. Like when I go to an event, I listen to a presentation, I would share it on social media, especially on Twitter, and then I would like to ask my audience who is not in the room with me, so what do you think about it? And then it just creates a completely different conversation. It continues, it expands, it grows my network, it brings in people who are not at the event. And in my opinion, there's huge potential that we haven't tapped into yet. Engaging this live and virtual audience. It's not just about networking. Okay, we can connect on LinkedIn, but it's about this having conversations, creating new insights.
Exactly.
So yeah, so much to this.
Yeah, and I think that's why the event doesn't end there in that year-round model. You know, it's not just, okay, event's done, see you later, thanks for coming, fill out the survey. It's, okay, we talked about this at the event. Let's talk. Do you want to talk about it more? Was this a good topic? Do we want to engage a little bit more here? Or, you know, are we done with that? And let's find another topic that people want to talk about. And that's where we can keep polling going on in our platform. So we can kind of see, well, everyone who's here and still paying attention, what do you want to talk about? And let's talk about that.
Definitely. And it happens quite often that you would have a panel of speakers, virtual or live, and they will talk about a topic. And then just towards the end, there will be one aspect that say, hey, this is so interesting. And they will talk about it, but then there's no time left. And actually, that's the core of this discussion. We finally got to the most important part of this, what we want to talk about. So why don't we then continue? And this is where the hybrid model comes in perfectly. Okay, so the topic of well-being is extremely important in the events industry. We've been working so much, extra hours, and it's important to take time off, disconnect, and recharge batteries. After you organize this complex event, how did you disconnect, recharge, took care of your well-being?
Yeah, so 2 days after the event, because we know the day after the event is still a work day, but 2 days later, I shut off the laptop, shut off the phone, got a massage, drank a bottle of wine, put my feet up, and just spent a day. And this was in the middle of the day. This wasn't even at night. This was just like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to just forget about it for a good 24 hours and spent the weekend with my family, who I had been ignoring for the couple weeks before that. And that was, just a day, a weekend. And then I kind of came back into it. And it's always funny coming back after an event because you spent so much time and energy for that. And you come back on, Monday and you're like, okay, now what do we do? And let's jump into the next one. But, we're really just taking a moment to say, okay, what do we really want to do? And let's look at some of the data from the event and let's keep conversations going with our audience before we actually plan the next one. Let's plan it smarter instead of just doing what we think is right. So that's, I kind of jumped back into work, but, and I didn't do I haven't taken time off really since. That's coming up in the summer. I've got some.
It is hard. I also guilty of this. I'm so passionate about my community that I check my phone on the weekend. I check my phone in the evening. I check my phone early in the morning. But I know what works for me is deleting Instagram from my phone, just like deleting the app.
I've done that with a couple.
So I think everyone can find their own ways of disconnecting. But so yeah, if you people who are watching us now, please share your tips how you disconnect and take time off from work. Okay, so let's wrap up slowly. If anyone has questions, please don't hesitate to write in the comments. But why don't you share with us, Jessica, some behind-the-scenes sneak peek into what's coming up with Hubilo?
Sure. Yeah.
Live, virtual, hybrid.
Yeah. So like I said, we're taking just a little bit of a pause to look at our strategy for the rest of the year and make sure, does it still make sense? And is it still aligning with the goals and, key messaging we started at the beginning of the year? And that's pretty exciting. So we're looking more at this, 365 community engagement model on our platform. So you'll start to see where our mix event was. We're going to start adding some more content there, some webinars, some podcasts, some blog posts, and additional content pieces. And we'll just start to bring the audience in and engage and add some polls and throw a little fun, some fun things in there too, not make it all businessy. So we can really start to, play with this model of keeping our audience engaged. And then later this year, we're hoping to come out with some really exciting product features that, we'll be announcing probably somewhere in Q3. We've got some really good changes coming to the UI of the platform, as well as some new features for everyone. So more to come on that, but look out for some exciting things to come from the product side of Hubilo.
Nice. Yes. You definitely hooked me with your plan to have like one Wednesday or any day of the week with open chat or open lounge. So I say, okay, it's Wednesday, 2:00. I'm going to the lounge. It's so cool. Like maybe I'll meet some people. This is a great idea. And from my experience, I have the Twitter chat, the Event Prof Talk Twitter chat, which takes place every Monday at 9 p.m. Central European time. And it's like a meeting point. And I try to take a break. I try to change the concept of it in a way that instead of having it on a weekly basis, it will be 1 month long, one topic, one theme, but it just didn't work. It was not interactive enough. It got like a bit slow and heavy, but like this very, very informal, fun chat, 1 hour, everyone is welcome to join. It's just such a great way for networking and learning.
And we need those breaks from our team. It's so hard, especially working from home now for everyone who still is. And I think that's a lot of people, like you just forget to stop working sometimes. I know I do it. I now have time in my calendar to go work out, because otherwise I'll just keep going and I won't do it. But when that ping comes up, I'm like, okay, like go, you need to walk away. You need to go for a walk. You need to exercise. And so having those kind of, weekly check-in chats, like that's another great, mental health way to just get away from work a little bit, but you're still, talking to your industry and your peers, which is really important. So
definitely, I will be there on this chat.
I love it.
And coming to our last question, I get to see you face to face at IMEX Frankfurt. Yes. You are coming to IMEX. So tell us about IMEX. What are you going to do? Any activation? Where can we see you and have a chat face to face?
Do you like champagne, Irina?
I'm not a big drinker, but
we will have some non-alcoholic bubbles as well. So please, everyone, stop by our booth at IMEX. We have a champagne bar. We've got some great swag we're giving away. We've got some demos going on. If you are familiar with our events at all and our amazing host, Rachel Moore, she will be there live doing interviews. So stop by and say hi to Rachel, say hi to myself and the other team members that will be there. We're really excited about IMEX. This is Hubilo's first IMEX in Frankfurt. So we're really excited. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also very excited to see you and also meet Rachel finally, because we've been remote such a long time. And that's the power of virtual events. I think that you meet, contact, you keep in touch, you build this relationship, and then you finally meet face to face. So if you're coming to IMEX, people who are watching us, please let us know in the comments. And Jessica, thank you very much for all your insights. We learned a lot, very good tips from you and very good questions from our audience. Thank you very much, everyone who joined us today. And people can get in touch with you on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Right. And is there any other way, Twitter, Instagram?
So I'm on Instagram. I think it's JV Connolly. I think that's what I am. But probably LinkedIn is the easiest, or jessica@hubilo.com, which is easier.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so Jessica, we'll keep in touch. I'll be at your next event. I'll see you at IMEX.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone for the great questions.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.